What a musician hears when they record has a big impact on the success of the performance. In this video, we'll learn how to set up a headphone cue in Ableton Live. So headphone cues can be set up a couple of different ways. The first method, we'll go to the master track and we'll use the cue method that's available there. Now you'll notice that I have a solo button. And if I click that, it turns into the cue button. At the same time, you notice that the solo buttons over here turned into little headphones or cues. So anything that I now turn on with those will be fed into the headphone cue. And you can enable multiple tracks for the headphone cue by command clicking on them. I'm also going to include the reverb here by command clicking on this return track. Now what I need to do is I need to go up and I need to set the cue output chooser to a different pair of outputs than I'm sending the master output to. Now I'm able to do that because I have a multi-output interface. Let's take a look at preferences. I'm going to go command comma to open that up. That would be control comma on a PC. And I go to the audio output device, and if I click the config button, we'll notice that my interface has 4 outputs enabled right now. So 3 and 4 are going to be my cue output. Now if you have an interface that only has 2 outputs, you actually won't be able to do that. You have to have a multi-output interface. So I'll close that. I've got those 3 tracks enabled for the cue. And I've got the cue set to the out, so that's good. And now I can control the total amount of signal by dialing in on this knob here. And the first time you check this, you might want to make sure that you turn it down so it's not too loud. So I'll go ahead and hit play. Okay, we see that we've got signal happening there for the cue. Now in this particular example, or this method of setting up a headphone cue, the levels that are sent in are the identical levels that are on the tracks, or I should say the mix is identical to what's being heard in the control room. Another way to do that is to not use this built-in cueing. So I've gone back and I'm going to put those on solo so that we're back to normal mode. And I've got an additional return track here, a return, and I've also set that to outputs 3 and 4. Now I can get signal onto this track by going ahead and turning on the send. And if I want more drums than bass, I'll turn that up and turn the bass down a little bit. I'm also going to add a little bit here on the return track going on to that same send. And I'm also going to set the send to be pre-fader. And the reason I'm going to do that is because as I copy the signal onto the send, it's not going to be affected by the position of the faders on the tracks. And therefore, if I am working in the control room and I make a volume change on a track, it won't affect what's being sent to the headphone cue. And the fastest way to get a musician to stop playing is to actually change level on a track during playback so that they can hear it in their headphones. So now, with the pre-fader send, I can do that, but since I'm picking off the signal on the send before the fader, that won't be heard in the headphone cue. Okay, so I've got that send A set to go over to this return track, which I've set to the additional outputs 3 and 4. I've got those set pre-send, and now I can control the total amount of signal that's being copied onto that and sent to the headphone cue by using this fader on this track over here. So if I go ahead and click play, we should see signal on this track. Okay, so setting up a cue for recording is crucial, but often overlooked part of making a recording. Now you know 2 ways to create a cue in live and should be able to make the crankiest of musicians comfortable in your next live recording session.